Any plans for this evening? Perhaps a game night?
Game over, man! It's game over!
Shut up. Play the game. Play it from your heart.
26 years ago, we started playing a little game. Now, we're all gonna sit down, we're gonna finish it.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And here we go.
Hello and welcome everyone to Dice Camera Action, a mashup podcast about board games and movies. I'm your co-host Jason Tripp, and when my wife and I retire, we are strongly considering moving to Tuscany to live and work on a vineyard.
Sounds great for you, Jason. I'm Matt Cousineau, and who knew Hans Gruber was such a wine snob? But I guess being a European, that would make a lot of sense. So welcome to Dice Camera Action. We have a fun episode lined up. Before we get into stuff, I want to introduce a guest that we have on today. You have heard his voice on the podcast before. We have Andrew Stiles back. He was on the Gen Con episode that we had done. So he is, again, the co-host of a board game and podcast named Tabletop Submarine. He's the designer of Wine Cellar by 25th Century Games, which funded on Kickstarter and coming to backers and retail this summer, so watch out for that. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you so much. But I got to get in the spirit of things. Hold on one second.
Sounded
that was not a trip to the bathroom. That was a bottle of wine being poured there. Yes. For those of you listening, what are we drinking this evening, Andrew? What do you got there? Looks like a red. Is that a?
It's a red. It is the Prohibition Cellars 2021 Cabernet Noir. So it's a Cabernet Pinot Noir blend. This was up from the Seattle area, the Washington wine region up there, and it's quite tasty. Had some of them last night, so I thought I'd have a little bit more while we're talking about wine and movies.
There you go.
Totally setting the scene, the ambiance. I like it. Nice. And this is historic for Dice Camera Action because you are our first returning guest on the show, right? So a special honor.
It is a huge pleasure to come back, but also, we talked about earlier, I used to do a podcast called The Real Pour, where we paired wine and movies together. So this is actually not far off from my own little wheelhouse.
We got the right guy
all together, right?
Yeah, we definitely brought in a ringer for tonight because the game we're going to be talking about tonight is a wine theme game, and we might have to have you back for a third episode because once your wine theme game drops, Andrew, then we'd love to have you back to have a conversation about that. But tonight we're going to talk about personally my favorite wine theme game, and I think the highest rated wine theme game on Board Game Geek, and that's Viticulture. I wonder if Wine Cellar will surpass Viticulture one day. That's what you're gunning for, right? So.
Well, I'm totally going to gun for it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I have a real shot, but we'll see. I mean, we're doing pretty well. We're in 8.6 currently in Board Game Geek, so it's
impressive,
not bad.
On BGG. Nice. Before we get into all that, Andrew, it's been a couple of months since we last spoke. What have you been up to?
So we announced another game of mine called Digging for Dinos by 3WS. You can go to Board Game Geek and you can check out the cover right now. I still haven't seen more art for it yet, but that's coming out later this year. So it's just a matter of time till they drop some more spoilers and stuff like that. But that's my second game. It's actually the fourth game that got signed, but it's the second game coming out because timelines of different publishers are different.
For sure, yeah.
Are you at liberty at this point to give us a little tease about anything about the game? Or
yeah. So there's a description on it there, so I can definitely do that. But essentially, you have a team of two architects. God bless
archaeologists.
Archaeologists, and you're digging up dinosaur bones from a collective site, right? So you move your workers, and each worker has two sides. One is an orthogonal side, the other was a diagonal side. So whatever side is up is the way that worker can move. And when they move, you collect the dinosaur bones they were standing on, and then it flips over to the opposite side. So it's this interesting puzzle of moving around, kind of like fighting a phone booth, kind of digging up these bones, holding your spot, blocking other people. And you get points for the bones you dig up. but you get even more points if you can manage to get a set of entire skeleton. So there are skeletons that are 2, 3, 4, 5, stuff like that, different sizes you can pick up, and there's a lot of different kinds of dinosaurs in the game. It goes over 3 kind of levels, and each level has 1 full dinosaur bone set in it. So that's the game.
Nice.
It's a family-friendly game, but also will not bore gamers because it does have that puzzly set collection with blocking and jumping and moving around and like hate drafting kind of aspect to it.
Nice. That sounds like it's going to be a hit for my family. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I was just going to say, like, those kinds of games, assuming there's not a lot of language or any reading involved on the cards or on the play.
No, I mean, the names of the dinosaurs will be on there, but it doesn't matter if you know those or not, right?
Yeah,
so,
perfect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my 8-year-old will probably eat that right up. He loves dinosaurs, and we play that kind of game all the time. That's kind of right in our wheelhouse, the game that, like, won't bore me, but I can still play with my 8-year-old. Sounds like right up my wheelhouse with my current family situation.
What's the player count, Andrew? Before we take another swig of that wine there.
It is 2 to 4 players. So,
2 to 4.
Obviously,
Perfect.
if you're playing 2, it's a smaller set of squares. If you're playing larger player counts, it gets bigger and bigger, making a little more room. But
nice.
I think it really shines at both the 2 and the 4.
To it.
3 is good, but like when you're playing 4 players and you're really getting tactical and trying to block multiple people at a time, it's a lot of fun. But then the 2-player is like everything you don't get is at risk of being gotten by your opponent. So those are the 2-player counts I think it shines the best at.
Yeah, the high player interaction games always are usually best at the highest player count available. But then the 2-player often creates this, like I find Azul, those kind of drafting games are very much like that. It turns into a very different game. 2 players, you're much more invested into what your opponent's doing and what you need to take away from them because it is a zero-sum game at that point, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. And Azul did inspire this game. It's one of many inspirations for this game, but that tight drafting mechanic of, I have to have this. I want to get this. I want to get this collection of things. But I didn't copy it. It's not close to copying it, but it definitely informed the decision-making behind the game.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. And when did you say that's just coming out as a published game, right? Not crowdfunding or anything?
I think it probably will be crowdfunding, and they're going to announce it later this year at some point. I just don't know the details yet.
Gotcha. Okay. We don't have any timelines yet. Okay, cool. We'll have my eyes and ears open for that for sure. So today we're, as we mentioned before, we're going to be reviewing Viticulture. So looking forward to that. It's a very popular worker placement game, and talking about crowdfunding, one of the very first kind of crowdfunded board games that kind of shot
the
Kickstarter.
Original Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we've paired it with a 2008 wine-themed film called Bottle Shock. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we do get into all of that, as we always do, we'll take a little bit of time to shout out some of the games and movies and things that we've been doing lately. Jason, you want to start us off with a game?
Yeah, sure. So I went over to one of my gaming friends the other day, and they were playing the newest game in the Span universe. We'll stick with Stonemaier games, Finspan.
Do you only play Stonemaier games, Jason?
No, I didn't even play this. I just popped in. That was on the table. I'm a fan of Stonemaier, unabashedly. I love their products, but I'm a little hesitant that the Span universe is just kind of going out of control. But it was on the table, looked pretty. But that's not the game I want to talk about, because my preference in the Span universe, now everybody knows about Wingspan and all those expansions, but then they came out with Wormspan a couple of years ago now, which is WYRM, not WORM, which is Dragon Thief.
Dragons. Yeah.
And and I actually prefer this one to Wingspan. Where are you guys at with Wingspan versus Wormspan? I assume you've both played both of these, or?
I have only played Wingspan yet, but I love that there are different levels of the Span universe, right? So what I've heard is that Wingspan is the medium, Wormspan is the more advanced, and then Finspan is a little more
Finspan is more
level.
beginner. Yes.
So
yeah. Finspan
I've only played
is definitely the easiest.
Yeah, same. I've only played Wingspan. I played Wingspan, the standard, at 2 players, I think. Maybe it was 3 players. And then I played I think it's the Asia expansion that is like strictly designed for 2 players.
Yeah, and it has more of a tactical. It's got a little bit of area control aspect going.
Yeah, so for obvious reasons, for those who've been following the podcast, know I prefer higher player interaction games. I much preferred that 2-player version. I was much more invested in what my opponent was doing and what was going on the table versus just my own little area. So I much preferred that one. And now that I'm hearing, I didn't know much about Wormspan, just that it was slightly different, but had some similar similar gameplay mechanisms and all that.
Yeah, the board looks similar. That's the one I want to talk about today is Wormspan, because it is my preference over Wingspan, although I'll play Wingspan when it's on the table any time of the day. But with Wormspan, there's a few features that are added. So instead of different sort of habitats for birds, you've got 3 caverns, and you've got to excavate deeper and deeper into these 3 levels, these 3 rows of caverns. Similar to Wormspan, you got the 3 levels on the board. You're trying to fill your board not with birds but with dragons, and you've got different types of dragons. So you've got like nice friendly dragons, you've got aggressive dragons, you've got hatchlings that require milk as their resources. And so in order to go deeper into your cavern, you've got to play these excavation cards first. So on your turn, you can either excavate, you can entice a dragon once you've excavated a spot in the cave. Now, the first spot in each cave, you don't need to excavate the entranceway. So you can get your 1 dragon in the leftmost column for free, no problem. After that, you've only got so many turns, like in Wingspan. You gotta kind of think 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. Okay, well, I want to do this, so I can do this, so I can do this, so I can get this bonus. And it's all about one of those sweet engine building games like Wingspan. Okay, you got to try and draft or collect the strong dragons up front that'll give you ongoing bonuses. So you can get dragons that give you bonuses whenever you go to that particular cavern. You can get dragons that give you bonuses as soon as you entice them, much like Wingspan. And there are eggs, like there is in Wingspan. You've got these speckled, very colorful eggs that you can place on them, and you collect them. But how it works is the further you can go in your cave, having excavated, the more rewards and resources you're going to get, not only from the dragons, but from action spaces between your dragon cards. And so one particular cave will allow you to get more of those excavation cards in your hand. Another cave will give you more of the dragon cards in your hand. Another cave will give you more resources in your hand. So you've got a few more resources in Wormspan than you do in Wingspan. So you've got milk, which is exclusively for the hatchlings, and they'll allow you to cash milk tokens on them and get more points, much like in Wingspan. There's diamonds, there's meat, there's a whole bunch of resources. And much like Wingspan, you see the dragon, the associated cost to play, the point value, and then the special ability. But there's also a little more player interaction than in Wingspan. I think you'll appreciate this, Matt, because not only are you kind of head down doing your own thing on your board, but there's sort of a shared objective board in the middle of the table, sort of a rondelle kind of that you're going around every so often based on your actions, and you'll get extra resources and you'll get rewards. If you're the first one to go from the top to the bottom of that, every time you kind of do halfway around, you get to place one of your tokens on an end game bonus. And there's only so many spots for those. So you're kind of doing your own thing, but you're kind of racing to get these more lucrative rewards at the end of the game as well, which increases a little bit of the player interaction. I think that's one of the things I think intentionally they wanted was a little more player interaction this one, because like you, Matt, I mean, for a heads down game, Wingspan's fine, but like you, I like a little more interaction. And I think with this one, you get some of the shared stuff you're competing for, but also you got to keep a closer eye on what everybody's doing as well in this one than in Wingspan. And so it's a little meatier. It's not by any stretch a heavy game, but if you're looking for something like Wingspan, you like the mechanic, but you're looking for something with a little more player interaction and a little heavier, but not overwhelming, plays up to 5 players and plays well at 3, 4, 5. I don't really like it as a 2. I don't think I've played it as a 2-player game. I like more players around the table, so it plays well at 4 and 5. And I think it's about an hour and a half game, so it's not too lengthy. That's Wormspan. The second in the Span universe, Finspan, has just come out, and who knows where they'll go from here.
Very cool. Andrew, what have you been up to?
So I've been looking for more travel-oriented games. My wife and I can play while on the road together on trips, but it has to have that meat, that weight to it. Like needs to feel satisfying to play.
Mhm.
And two that we've been testing out and being very successful is Castle Combo and Far Away. Those are two that I really like playing lately. Castle Combo is a 3x3 grid drafting game where each card has a cost, high or low, whatever it is, but then you have to have it placed somewhere in your grid. And then where it is in the grid may determine different scoring parameters. So maybe certain cards want to be on your bottom row or the leftmost row, or some cards may want to have the same color next to it on either side or up and down from it or things like that. And every card in that has a completely unique, not completely unique, but very unique for most cards way of scoring. And it's a matter of you comboing those cards to score each other in the best possible way. And I think it's really clever. There are plenty of cards in there. You don't see even about half of them during the course of a regular 2-player game. If you play at the higher player counts, 4 or 5, you will see a lot more of them. But specifically for me, traveling, it's just got to be a really good 2-player game. And this one so far has been shining.
Nice.
The other one,
Very cool.
while
I'm
far
looking
away,
at the I'm looking at the art of Castle Combo now. It's very charming and very quirky and fun. It looks like a really cutesy game, but with a little bit of meat, as you said.
It is, and the mechanic I really think is great is the 2 levels. So the top level is the castle level, the bottom level is the village level, and there's a little messenger that goes between the two, and it tells you what you're allowed to draft. So if it's on the top, you can draft from the 3 in the castle. If it's on the bottom, you can draft from the 3 in the village. And you have to spend a resource, a key, to get him to move between the 2. Or you can use a key to wipe that row and get a whole nother set. But whatever you do, you are stuck with that decision. You can't make any more changes. So there's a push your luck element of hopefully finding what you're looking for, depending on how you're doing it.
Very cool.
Interesting.
And your second game we've talked about on the podcast a few times, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
I just love this whole forward and backward thought process, right? Like the idea of drafting forward and taking your steps out of your home and down the thing and seeing all the different cool stuff. But then as you're doing that, you're literally thinking in reverse as to how can I get what I need.
Just for the record, we're talking about Far Away now.
Yes. Sorry. I should have prefaced that.
That's all right.
Yeah, Far Away. Just really impressed by that whole trying to build forward while scoring backward. I think that's just such a cool mechanic.
Yeah,
it is. Game. I played this for the first time not too long ago, and I was like, it's a brain twister because it's very counterintuitive. Like, okay, I gotta reverse my thinking on this. So when I travel back, I'm gonna get this reward. So I gotta get this card down early, and then I gotta follow it up with XYZ. So it's an interesting, unique mechanism. I enjoyed it as well.
Very cool. Yeah. And then for me, I have been, I went on a family trip recently, which is why I guess we haven't talked about it at all, but we did miss a 2-week, we release an episode every 2 weeks and we missed last week. So apologies for that for anybody who was expecting an episode.
I got so much hate mail. Oh man.
So we'll get back on track here, and but the reason for that is I was away on family vacation. We went to Florida. We spent 5 days at Disney, doing all the parks there, and then we got an Airbnb on the coast, and we spent some time, on the ocean and at the beach, and doing some excursions and stuff like that. So I haven't had really any games played in the last 2-3 weeks, but there are movie/game related things that I did. So I just wanted to talk really quickly. I think it's interesting for the nerd crowd to hear, because I indulged in the nerdy stuff at Disney, dragged my family to maybe certain things and whatnot. But I definitely will say my favorite day at Disney was the day that we did Hollywood Studios, and we spent a significant portion of that day in Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars themed park, which was incredible. It looked gorgeous. I'll post some pictures. There's pictures on my Instagram as well, so feel free to check that out. Dice Camera Action. but I'll post some pictures. But it's called Black Spire Outpost, and the way this park works is that they treat it as if you're in Star Wars. So you can't go to the gift shop in this portion of the park and purchase a Star Wars t-shirt, because you're in Star Wars. Right? Star Wars is not a thing. But you can buy toys and items and action figures and whatnot that all make it feel like you're in Star Wars, right? So it's really neat the way they did it. All of the cast members or employees of the park, they won't acknowledge that you're in a park, right? They call you travelers. Oh, hello, travelers, this way. If you ask them a question, they'll answer in a way that that you're actually at Black Spire Outpost and that kind of thing. So really, really immersive experience, really neat. The Star Wars themed rides were incredible. I got to fly in the Millennium Falcon, and smuggle some contraband, to another planet and that kind of stuff. So it was just like incredible experience. We got to see Din Djarin and Grogu and Rey and Chewbacca and BB-8. We did kind of some encounters with the characters and that kind of thing. So I have two boys, Remy and Charlie, who are 5 and 8. And we brought them to the I forget what it's called, but build your own droid experience. Basically you go into like a droid shop and it looks like something that you would see in Star Wars, and there's this you pay X amount of dollars and the boys get to, or whoever does this gets to build their own droid, and that ends up being this like really neat little remote control droid that you can bring home, and it has a little bit of a personality, and you can buy different personality chips to make them either a rebellion droid or an Empire droid or a smuggling kind of droid or whatever. So there's this huge conveyor belt with like hundreds of pieces that are going by, and the folks that are there will be like, okay, you need one of those, grab the color of this kind of thing that you want, and the kids are like filling their baskets with all the things that they want to do, and then they go to the next station where they build it with the employees there that help them put it together. And then there's a little area where they can actually go and play with them and test them out and stuff. So we did that for the kids. And as you can imagine, as a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old in a Star Wars, Black Spire Outpost, whatever, like they had a blast with that. The last thing I want to talk about is my favorite experience of my time there. And one moment.
Did you do the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs? That's what I want to know.
I failed. But there is similar to the droid experience where you get to build your own droid. There's also a very expensive, but totally worth it experience where you can build your own lightsaber. So for those of you watching, you can kind of see my lightsaber. For those of you just listening, I'll light it up here and you can hear what it sounds like when you light it up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then if you wave it around and stuff, it'll make all kinds of noises. Then you can shut it down. So it looks and feels like it's metal and it's heavy. And when you built it, you decide what color lightsaber you want, and they give you a kyber crystal, a little plastic kyber crystal with a microchip in it, and you literally enter it into the frame of your lightsaber, and then the lightsaber acknowledges the color. It makes a noise as if it's like powering up, and it starts flashing in the color of the kyber crystal that you put in there. And then when you light it up, the blade reads the color of the kyber crystal that's in it, and it'll light up that color. Nice. And I even bought a second kyber crystal because I thought, it'd be fun to be able to change the color. So I bought a second kyber crystal, a blue one. So when I'm not feeling so dark, I can go in there, change the kyber crystal, and then the lightsaber will be blue. So it's just a really fun, super immersive experience. When you go into this like lightsaber building experience, they treat you like you're a traveler on this planet. And they say like lightsabers are illegal on this planet. So when you leave here, make sure you keep it hidden and don't tell anybody. And if you get, you didn't get it from me and that kind of thing. So it's very much an immersive experience. It was very expensive, but totally worth it. I just wanted to share that. I thought that was a neat, fun experience that I had that's gaming / movie related.
Absolutely.
I'm a little surprised that
Get the
you're
full
not only
geek out
claiming your
experience. That's
Sith
awesome.
Lord
For sure.
status.
Yeah. I brought my lightsaber into work the other day and all my coworkers
Yeah.
were geeking out over it. And I'm excited to show it to you as well, Jason. So
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's very, very
Well,
cool. So
I think we got to get together for May the 4th and get the full experience like we're doing tonight with the wine.
sounds good. All right. Quickly, we'll get into some of the stuff that we've been watching, and then we'll get into our main reviews. Jason, you want to start us off with something you've been watching?
I sure would. So on I think our most recent episode a month ago, we talked about our year list, our favorite games of the year and our favorite movies of the year. And there was one particular movie that I hadn't seen yet that I thought might compete to be in my top 10. Well, you know what? This is my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, I would have snuck in there as number one.
This actually surprisingly surpassed Dune Part 2 as my favorite film of
Amazing.
2024.
Wow.
And that film is pleasantly surprisingly nominated for Best Picture, and it's called Nickel Boys. I don't know if you guys have seen or heard of this film. Andrew, have you heard of this film, Nickel Boys?
I mean, I've seen it come up on my feeds and stuff like that.
I don't know
but
if
I
you've
have
heard of
not
it, Matt,
sat
but
down to watch a trailer.
this
or anything
film
like
just blew me away. I saw it with my son. We were down in Toronto. It's not playing here in our city, so I saw it in Toronto with my boy. We were away for a weekend, and when he finished watching it, I asked him, "What do you think?" He said that was profound. And I thought, what a word to describe this as my 14-year-old. This is a film by director Ramel Ross, who's not primarily a filmmaker. He's an artist in the truest and best sense of the word. He's a photographer. He's a professor. And he was approached to adapt this novel written by Colson Whitehead called Nickel Boys, about these two young boys in Florida, Florida theme tonight, back in the Jim Crow days, back in Florida, going to this reform school and their experiences, sometimes harrowing, and their friendship. But the thing that blew me away with this, set during the Jim Crow era, so you're looking at in the 60s, 70s, post World War II, during the time of Martin Luther King Jr. He plays some prominent role in this through archival footage.
Okay.
But the thing that blew me away, and I never say this, I saw some stuff in this film that I've never seen before, is because they basically invented a form for this. Now there's a couple movies with point of view. What was that shooter movie there? Hardcore Henry, was it, or something? Yeah. Hardcore Henry, yeah. But that was more of a video game style. This is totally shot, start to finish, through the point of view of the two protagonists. So for the most part of the movie,
fully in the way that you don't even see them ever on screen.
We will see them through some creative use of filming, which I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But the primary character, Elwood, the film starts with just his childhood, and we're just seeing him growing up, seeing like laying under a Christmas tree with the tinsel falling or twirling a leaf in his yard. And so you're actually you're in his body, you're seeing and almost like touching what he's touching. And it's so immersive. It's so incredible. And I didn't for one moment think it was a gimmick or a fad or something. It was very, very effective to create some empathy for these characters, to sense what they're sensing. And so for the first few minutes that happens, I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting, but if this is the whole movie through one character's point of view, this might be a little tedious. But there comes a point about a half hour into the movie where he meets and befriends someone at this reform school, and all of a sudden it switches from his perspective to his friends. And the camera movements are so subtle because they have different personalities and personas. One's has a more confident outlook at the world. One's a little more shameful. So the camera, you can tell who's watching based on the camera movements. Your guy, Hamish Linklater, Matt,
I love that guy.
Plays an important role. He's kind of the villain, the sort of schoolmaster at the school in this film. But this film is so incredible. I can't do it justice by talking about it too much longer. I don't want to spoil anything, but I would strongly encourage people, if you get the chance, see this on the biggest screen possible. Maybe take a Gravol before you do, because you might get a little motion sickness because of the camera work. But I was moved profoundly by this film multiple times. It's my favorite film of the year. I think it's actually my favorite film of the decade so far. Yeah, it was really that creative. I mean, it's a conversation partner with my favorite film of all time, The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. I think that was a major inspiration. So this is definitely one
Okay.
for me. It won't be for everyone, but it's so good. It might even. I'm working on my doctoral work, and I'm doing some faith in film writing and focusing on the films of Malick. And I might devote some ink to this particular film because it's so immersive. And
I've heard nothing but good things.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've listened to tons of interviews with the director. He's just such a fascinating guy, and it's heavy content, but it's PG rated, and it does a good job of not being like trauma porn, like 12 Years a Slave and some of those other films in recent years.
Yeah,
it's heavy subject matter, but I think it does it tactfully and empathetically. It doesn't focus on the torture. It's there. It doesn't skirt around it. Anjanou Ellis Taylor plays a prominent role. She's one that we see on screen quite a bit. She plays the grandmother of the protagonist, and she's just wonderful. I wish she would have got an Oscar nomination. Would have been so preferable to some of the others that were nominated. But yeah, it's called Nickel Boys. I'm just gushing at this point. Having trouble grasping appropriate words to describe it, but it moved me to tears multiple times, and I can't stop thinking about it. And it's one I'm certainly going to add to my collection as soon as it's available. And one I'll probably be a regular Black History Month viewing, and we're in Black History Month now, so I think it's an appropriate film to be talking about tonight. So it's called Nickel Boys, and it's nominated for a few awards. I don't know how this doesn't get a cinematography nomination. Cinematography is just off the chart in this, but I'd love to get your feedback for when you guys watch it, because
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll talk about it for sure once I get a chance to watch it.
Yeah. So, what about you, Matt? What have you been watching? I guess you've been watching more movies on the road than you've been playing games of late. So,
yeah, I got a chance. I watched a movie called Marrowbone from 2017, and I'm a kind of a horror thriller guy. It's like my horror thriller and sci-fi are kind of my main go-to genres.
That's why you got the red lightsaber, my friend.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, and I follow like some horror and thriller Instagram accounts, and this movie was recommended, and I had never even heard of it. And it stars.
I don't know this one.
Yeah, it stars George McKay, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, who you might recognize from Stranger Things, and Maya Goth. So like a pretty solid cast. And again, I had like never heard of it. So when I saw it recommended, I thought, oh, I might go check this out. So I watched it a couple of nights ago. And yeah, it was really solid. It was directed by Sergio Sanchez, 2017, and it's about a family of five with the mothers, so 4 kids, who move to the States as they're trying to flee their father, or the father of the family. And at the beginning of the movie, we don't really know why. It's sort of a mystery box movie where we slowly unveil what happened with the family and why they're fleeing from the father, and that kind of thing. And it's a movie. I don't want to talk too much about the plot because it is fairly plotty, and there are there's a little bit of a twist to it and that kind of thing, but it is better than I expected for a movie that I'd never heard of. Usually a movie that I would never heard of, especially in this genre, often is a movie that didn't get the accolades, and didn't get recommended a ton, and wasn't talked about in awards and all this other stuff, right? So for a movie I'd never heard of, I often don't expect them to be fantastic. I just thought, okay, it'll kill some time, and I do enjoy a good thriller horror. But basically there's like a quote unquote presence in the house that is alluded to over the course of the movie, and this movie gets kind of compared to the others quite a bit from what I've read and seen since I've discovered this movie, and it's definitely not a huge twist in the way that the others has, but it's definitely a mystery that I enjoyed trying to unravel and figure out. It's very well acted, it's creepy, and it's very I want to say the script was very good. I gave it 3.5 stars, and right before they reveal they really unravel and explain and show you everything that's been going on. Up until that point, I'm like, wow, this movie's fantastic. Like, how is it not more in the cultural zeitgeist, especially on the horror thriller side of things. And it was really the last like 15-20 minutes after you find out the major events of what you've actually been seeing. I'm trying to be really vague here. Hopefully I'm succeeding without being too boring. But it's like everything after the reveal felt a little sloppy and felt a little like you knew too much about what had happened, and you start to kind of poke holes a little bit in the thing. And it just felt a little bit sloppy in that last 15 minutes. If the movie had like given you the twist and then sort of almost immediately ended, I feel like it would have given you almost the feeling that you had after you watched Saw for the first time. Not to that extent, because the twist is not that big of a twist. It's not like this huge reveal. It's just you find out, oh, okay, well, I should have been looking at it this way instead of that way or whatever. And all of that was really interesting. And I thought this movie was fascinating. Still totally worth a watch. I had a blast with it. And the child actors were all really good. And a lot of these actors you'll recognize, but they're like 5-10 years younger than what you know them to be now. But definitely recommend Marrowbone. I would say it's more of a thriller than a horror. There's very few horror elements to it. It's more of a family drama with a little bit of mystery and a little bit of thrill. And definitely recommend checking out Marrowbone.
Cool. That's a great cast.
Yeah, really good cast. And again, especially with that cast and that genre, I was like, how have I never heard of this?
Most of that cast has gone to high heights since that movie. So it's always interesting to look back at some of their earlier work where they're cutting their teeth. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like the Manson family in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't know if you ever looked at that, but
Mikey Madison.
It's crazy. Like Mikey Madison, Austin Butler. Sydney Sweeney was the other one I was thinking of. There's like 5 or 6 people in there. Oh, and then of course
Margaret
Qualley. Yeah, like it goes on and on. There's like 6 or 7 of them that have gone on to be like huge stars since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But let's move on. Andrew, let's get to what you've been watching so we can get into our main review.
So we finished Silo, the second season, and that was a little survival horror. Maybe you'd be interested in watching that one, Matt. That's a pretty good one. We didn't feel like it moved fast enough. It didn't go through the process of doing enough in the season, but the ambience and the drama and the tension keeps ramping up on this thing really well. And the cinematography for being down in a tunnel, basically, or an enclosed space is actually really good. I'm not saying it's Terrence Malick level of cinematography, but they do a pretty good job of really making you feel like you're trapped in that space. And it's very much a survival, fight and flight, constantly pushing and pulling against each other. Really, really enjoyed that whole series. And I guess it got greenlit for seasons 3 and 4. So we got a bunch more of those coming. So I've been watching Wolves, which scratches that Ocean's 11 type feel to it. It's not wolves, it's wolves. And it's 2 lone wolves working together despite them not wanting to, right? And so they're constantly trying to one-up each other or kind of show that they're the better one. And it's kind of this really interesting dynamic that plays out with them jostling each other with machismo and also the gravitas of the moment or the lightheartedness of the moment, right? Like, they can do both that way. And I think that if it wasn't for those 2 actors, this movie would be very forgettable. But because those 2 actors do exactly what they do in Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12 and stuff like that, and if you like that banter, this is all of that. This movie is almost entirely just them bantering back and forth and trying to get a job done. And I really enjoyed it. It was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I've heard almost exactly that like plot wise, story wise, script wise, it's kind of just okay. But if you just want to like hang out with these two dudes that we obviously just love to watch on screen, I'm sure it's apparently it's a good time if you just want to like hang out with these dudes, which it's been on my watch list. I haven't gotten around to it, but I do love those guys, especially in those roles. And I guess the plot, from what I understand, is basically and potentially the reason it's called Wolves, is that basically the plot is that the wolf from Pulp Fiction, the Harvey Keitel character, was called to a job, and then two of them show up. So
Famous
correct me if I'm
line,
wrong.
"You're
That's
calling the
basically
wolf?"
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Calling the wolf. Yeah.
Calling the wolf. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
You've seen it, Jason? Yeah.
It kind of overstayed its welcome for me. I was digging it for the first third, and it got a little. I'm like, well, I can just go watch Ocean's 11, a far superior film, if I want to see this shtick.
And you
Yeah.
probably should, so that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Fair
it
enough.
was fine. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, you're right. If it was other actors, it would have been worse. I mean, it's compelling just because these two personas on screen are pretty magnetic. It's fine.
Yeah, I did want to weigh into on Silo. Huge fan of that series. I'm about halfway, maybe a little past halfway through the second season. I'm enjoying it. I think you're right. There's some like fully throwaway episodes. It kind of meanders a little bit here and there, but the world building is what I love about it. And like you said, despite being fully underground and fully in this like fairly claustrophobic silo, it's very interesting to look at. It's not boring, despite dragging a tiny bit. I love the world building, and like you get to see. And for me, that's why I find it interesting, even in this, maybe the episodes and the stretches that aren't super propulsive. There's always something interesting about the world that you're learning and seeing how they live and why, and that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of the series. And you mentioned that it got renewed for seasons 3 and 4. And the thing that I'm excited about that is that they announced that would be it. So I like it when a producer or a company will make a series and predetermine an end, because they can write towards it and build towards it and execute in a way that's going to have finality. And the worst thing is that when they don't have an end point and the season goes on too long, or even worse, exactly. If it goes on too long, they write themselves into corners, and it gets messy, and they start to jump the shark and introduce characters for no reason, that kind of thing. So that gets messy. But even worse is when, they just like cancel the show. It's set up in a way where it's like you have a cliffhanger ending, or clearly it doesn't have that finality, and then like a show gets canceled. So I love it when when a Netflix, not Netflix, sorry, but Apple TV can come out and say like season 4 is going to be it, and then so there's going to be quality throughout, and they're going to be able to set it up in such a way that it'll be satisfying. So looking forward to the next couple of seasons of that.
I got about 18 shows that you recommended, Matt. I got to make like a Wheel of Fortune and just spin the wheel one night. What are we watching tonight, honey? We have Matt's wheel here. Yeah. I'm not a TV show guy for some of those reasons. I'm like, I just like to consume a movie from start to finish in one sitting. I don't want to come back for 4 seasons and be disappointed when they cut the show or it just dips. So yeah, Silo has intrigued me.
I've gotten to the point now with my, quote unquote TV watching that like I won't just start something if I'm not super confident in the creators, or if I already know that it has an ending and it doesn't dip and that sort of thing. Because like, Game of Thrones is a perfect example. The quality just went down so hard the last 2 or 3 seasons, and it fell from such an incredible height. It was so disappointing, right? Because that show was so good for so long. So yeah, a really good example is that I keep getting recommended the TV show From. It's called From, which is this like mystery box horror show where people get stuck in a town and they can't leave. I know very little about it because I don't want to know too much. I do plan on watching it, but what I heard was that it was created by the same people who made Lost. Lost,
Got
another
it.
show that was like famously fantastic for a good long while, and then ended so poorly because they wrote themselves into corners. They didn't have their ending written and set up in their minds as they were writing. They just kind of like, were going. And I think J.J. Abrams has this problem. He's a great starter of things and an awful ender of things. Not to mention Star Wars, but anyways. So yeah, just knowing that From is ongoing and the reviews keep coming, but I think they're in the third or fourth season now, and it keeps coming back as like incredible show, great show. And I'm just sitting here and I decided I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait and make sure, see if it ends and it's still getting great reviews, then I'll watch it, because we're in the golden age of television, man. There's so much good stuff.
There is.
I don't need to jump into From, because I have 10 other shows that I'm watching that I already know are solid and have that confidence that I already have in it.
Yeah, that's sometimes what I do now is I'll wait till the series is done and then watch it start to finish, knowing that it's done, it's complete, it stayed on a high level, it's getting good reviews. Okay, then I'll dive into it.
Also, why I'm such a huge fan of miniseries.
Yeah, that's right. One miniseries, start to finish, then it's done. I think I can trace my disdain for some shows for some of these problems we identified, going back to the show that got cut in 2009. You guys familiar with the show The Unit? You ever hear about that show? No. Dennis Haysbert and Robert Patrick. Robert
Not
Patrick,
familiar.
right? T2.
I do, yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
It's amazing. It's a covert team of special forces operatives. They risk their lives on undercover missions around the globe. So the husbands are out doing this covert operations, but the wives are back on the base. So it kind of goes from what the wives are dealing with to the husbands. And it was just clipping along. It was amazing cliffhanger after season 4, and then boom, got cut.
Ugh, so painful.
What? It was just like crescendoing and then
the
cut.
Worst.
But it was a sick show. And this is like early marriage, no kids. This is when my wife and I were consuming a lot of TV. Then kids come along. It's like, no, I got no time for TV anymore.
You're just watching Bluey now.
Pretty much. We're through that stage now.
Yeah.
Now I'm watching Nickel Boy with my son, which is glorious. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, we got a game to review, don't we?
We do.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Oh, let's get into it. I got this for those that are watching. I've got my special edition Viticulture wine crate.
Yeah.
I have, first printing, I have number 6,153 out of 8,400.
Very nice.
And the funny thing with this is I didn't even order this. I ordered just a regular box, and they sent me the wine crate. And because I'm an honest guy, I actually emailed Jamie Stegmaier himself and said, I don't think I was supposed to get this box. Like, just keep it. You've been a loyal Stonemaier customer for years. Just keep it. I'm like, all right, thanks, man.
No wonder you're so in the bag for Stonemaier.
I am. For the most part, I am. I love their stuff. But yeah, we're going to review my favorite worker placement game, and it's really hard to pick a favorite board game, but this is certainly, on any given day, this is one that's in the conversation for me. Spoiler alert. We'll give our scores later on, but maybe I'll just take a couple minutes, guys. Can I break down the nuts and bolts of this game? So we're reviewing Viticulture, again, from Stonemaier Games. And this was kind of released in stages. So the original version of the game was published in 2013 by Stonemaier Games, and it was fine, but it needed a bit of an upgrade. And so the publisher, they consulted others, and they upgraded this game, and they released an essential edition of this game. That came out in 2015, and that's the one that is still in the top 50 on Board Game Geek. I think it's number 39 currently as of recording. And then in 2016, they added another little expansion called the Tuscany expansion, which we'll talk about a little bit today. But I really want just to dive into the main sort of essential edition. If you don't have your hands on this game, you haven't heard about it, where have you been, first of all? And secondly, the essential edition is the one you want to get your hands on. And then just in 2022, all of these fit in my wonderful wine crate box. They came out with a cooperative expansion called Viticulture World, which I'm just starting to explore with some friends and family. And so the designers are Jamie Stegmaier and Alan Stone. It plays from 1 to 6 players. Most Stonemaier games have sort of an AI autonomon feature where you can play solo. I'm not a solo gamer. I think the sweet spot for this game is in that sort of 4 or 5 players. Plays in 45 to 90 minutes. No, it does not. It does not play in 45 minutes. It's closer to 90 minutes. It's the weight of 2.89 on BGG. If you have the Tuscany expansion, it bumps it up a little bit to 3.38. So you're in that sort of nice medium range sweet spot. And it's currently sitting at a 8.0 rating on BGG. 39th in the top 100. So maybe I'll just give a quick rundown of the mechanics of the game, guys. Then you can jump in and help me fill in the gaps, and we can have a little conversation about what we like, what we don't like about the game. But basically, it's a worker placement game. Everybody has their own personal vineyard player mat in front of them, and there's one sprawling board on the table, which basically whisks us away to Tuscany, where we are all viticulturists. We are all making wine, beautiful wine like the one that Alan's drinking tonight. And basically throughout the game in the Essential Edition, the original edition only had 2 seasons on the board. You had a spring season and a fall season, I believe it was.
Right.
But in the new Essential Edition, you've got now 4 seasons. You've got your spring, summer, fall, and winter. And the idea is with your workers, which you're going to expand your workforce throughout the game. Like a lot of worker placement games, you're going to acquire more workers as the game progresses. But at the beginning of the game, you've got 2 regular workers, and you've got one bigger meeple called your Grande worker. I'll explain what that does, the special ability behind that. And you're going to use those 3 workers in the first year of the game to place them either in the spring, the summer, the fall, or the winter season. And in each season, I believe there's 4 spots that you can place those workers, 4 actions that you can take. And depending on the player count, multiple players can take the same action. If you're playing a 1 or 2 player game, only 1 meeple can take 1 action spot. If you're playing a 3 or 4 player game, 2 meeples. And if you're playing 5 or 6, it allows for 3 at each spot. So it adjusts accordingly with the player count changing. So I've taken some screenshots of the board, and maybe just to give people a quick idea of some of these action spaces, I'll just paint a picture of what you can do in these various seasons and the actions you can take. So think of it as taking the winemaking process from start to finish. And what I love about this game is it's so immersive, it's so well researched, you actually feel like you're actually at the vineyard, you're actually making the wine, and there's this great satisfaction of taking this whole process from start to finish. So in the spring season, you've got a number of cards, different colored cards that you're going to acquire in your hand. So there is some card hand management throughout the game. And the green cards are basically the types of grapes that you can plant and harvest on your fields. On your player mat, you've got 3 fields at the beginning of the game. You have one value 5, one value 6, and one value 7. And those are both the cost of those fields to sell and buy them. But it's also the amount of grapes, the value of the grapes on these green cards that can fit on each individual field. And so one action you could take in the spring is acquiring 1 or 2 of those green cards. If you're the first person on that space, you can get an additional one as a bonus, and you just add those to your hand. They'll either make red wine or white wine. It'll tell you the type of wine you can make, and there'll be a number value that you can place in one of your 3 fields later on in the game. You can also go to a space in the spring that allows you to give a tour of your vineyard. And that's one way to collect some currency in the game. And so you can make 2 or 3 lira, I guess, is the currency in the game. Money, currency is very important, I would say, in the first half of the game, not so much in the late stage of the game. And so that's an important spot. You can also build a structure. As I mentioned, you've got your own little player mat. So not only are you sending workers out on the main board, but you're going to be expanding the infrastructure of your player board, which will allow you to plant certain types of grapes. And so you need to build a trellis along the way. You need to build irrigation along the way. You need to expand your wine cellar, because at the beginning of the game, you only have a small wine cellar, but you're going to need to expand that to a medium size and a large size throughout the course of the game, which allow you to have more expensive bottles of wine in your wine cellar. There's other things that you can build that'll let you explore. I won't explain them all, but you can build a structure in the spring to help sort of kickstart that process. And then if you're playing with the Tuscany in the Essential Edition or the Tuscany expansion, at the bottom left of the main board, you've got a little map of Italy with different regions. And you can place stars. You have 6 stars in your possession. You can place 1 or 2 stars by going to this action selection spot that allows you to collect some resources or cards throughout the course of the game. At the end of the game, you'll get bonus points. You'll get victory points for controlling those particular territories. So it's kind of a little side quest or side game where you can get a couple extra points at the end of the game.
Like an area majority thing.
Like an area majority thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are all the things that you can do in the spring season. And then in the summer season, there's another color card that you can collect. They're yellow cards. They're your summer visitor cards. You're going to have summer visitors and winter visitors. And these cards are very powerful because they will speed up the process of the winemaking, and they'll help you get some extra victory points as you go along. And so you collect some of those cards in the summer. You can also now plant some of those green cards that you've collected in the spring. If you have the right structures built, trellis or irrigation, because the iconography on those cards tells you the prerequisites for planting those white or red grapes, you can now plant those on one of your 3 fields. If you go to that particular spot, there's also another spot that allows you to trade. You can trade currency for cards of any color. You can trade currency for victory points. You can lose a victory point. So there's 4 options for trading. And then you can also sell one of your fields. If money's tight, and this is something I do most games, I don't really need all 3 of my fields most games, so I'll sell one of them to get 5 or 6 or 7 lira that I can use to reinvest in buying other things. So those are all the potential actions you can do in the summer. Quickly, in the fall season, you can collect purple cards. Now, yellow cards are your visitors in the summer. The blue cards are your visitors to come in the winter. The green cards are the ones you're planting. But these purple cards are your order cards. Eventually, a good number of your points are going to come from filling orders. And so you're going to collect some of these purple cards, and it's going to tell you in advance, okay, I need to have this type of bottle of wine in my cellar eventually. And so I'm going to hold on to that card, and it kind of helps you know what you're kind of working towards as you're building your engine towards eventually selling some bottles and filling these orders. And so you collect those cards in the fall season. We've now planted our fields in the summer. Now you get to the fall. This is a satisfying time where you can then harvest your fields. And as you harvest your fields, you add up the total of your white and red grapes on your fields, 1 or 2 fields, whichever amount you're allowed to harvest. And you take these cool little grape tokens. They're almost these translucent grape tokens, and you put them on your personal player board on your crush pad, whether they're red or white. So you put them at the appropriate number, and now that shows you that you now have grapes harvested on your crush pad on your player mat. And then related to that, you can now take some of those grapes that are on your crush pad, and another action you can do in the fall is actually making those into wine bottles. And so transferring those from your crush pad into your cellar, your small cellar, or if you've upgraded to your medium or your large cellar, you can transfer those over as well. And so those are some of the things you can do in the fall. Again, you can build structures again in the fall. And then when you get into the winter season, that's when you can get more visitors coming to visit, some of those blue winter visitor cards that will, again, help expedite the process of winemaking. You can give a tour again in the winter. You can sell one of your wine tokens. If you don't want to fill an order, you can just sell a wine bottle straight up and get a couple of points, depending on the type of wine, red wine, white wine. We'll talk in a couple of minutes about the other types of wine you can make. And then you can do the satisfying filling of an order. If you're able to satisfy the requirement on one of those purple cards, you take those particular bottles out of your cellar and you sell those for 4 or 5 points. So the idea is you're trying to go through year after year. You're going through this process, trying to take the winemaking process from start to finish, racing against the other players around the table to try and get to 25 points. When someone gets to 25 points, that triggers, that's the last year of operation. Everybody gets a chance to finish that year out. And at the end of the year, you count the final points, adding again that little area control aspect of the game at the end, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, there's a lot of little nuances I skipped over, but that's a basic flow of the game and all the action spaces that you can take on the journey from spring, summer, fall, and winter. And you'll simply repeat that process. I should say, too, in the winter, I did mention that's where you can train a new worker as well. For a certain amount of money, you can train a new worker. So the next year, you'll have an additional worker to throw into the workforce. So that's the basic flow of the game, guys, and we can talk a little bit about some of the nuances, some of the things maybe I overlooked, and just general thoughts on the game. So,
Yeah,
I
one of the
think you were
things
incredibly thorough.
for sure. Yeah, one of the things I really liked about it was the turn order track.
yeah, we need to talk about that.
Remind me, does the turn order, so every season, whoever passes first goes first for the next season? Is that right?
Chooses first.
They chooses first. Now
Right.
Everybody has a rooster token. I didn't talk about this. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to place your rooster on row 1 through 7. And whoever is in the highest number, or the lowest number, close to the top, goes first each season. Now, there's bonuses attached. The lower down you go, the better bonuses you get when you move from season to season. But the downside is you're playing later. And so you might get squeezed out on some of those action spaces you really want to go. So it really is a bit of push and pull. Do I want these bonuses, or do I want to go first to ensure that I get to harvest my field or fill an order this year? But then, yeah, you're right. The first person who passes out of winter is the first one not to go first, but to choose which row they want to put their rooster on for the upcoming year. Unless someone has gone right at the bottom in row number 7, they get this little grape token, and they have to go number 1 next year. So you sacrifice going first to go last.
Season, correct?
The next year, yeah.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the next year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how the turn order works, which is really interesting because it's not just clockwise around the table. Turn order can change every year based on where people go. And the other thing with when you pass, you take all your tokens off. So a token that might have been blocked a minute ago is now opened up for the next player, which is fascinating. They changed the mechanics of this as the game evolved, which I think was a wise move as well. Uwe Rosenberg was consulted between the original game and the Essential Edition. I mean, he's the GOAT of replacement games, right? Yeah. So Jamie Stegmaier was wise to consult him, and together they were able to collaborate and come up with this Essential Edition, which I think was a major upgrade. And then they added the Tuscany expansion, which adds a little sort of add-on to your player board and adds more structure. So there's orange cards get added to the game, which you could buy.
Right, that's what I played for sure.
And special workers get added. Where two of your workers for an additional buy can give you special abilities. So that adds an additional layer to the game as well.
That's the version I played, where
I think we just threw it all at you the first time.
Yeah. You could train a worker, and then I think you either draft or you get given cards for your mama and your papa worker.
Correct.
And then you, when you train that worker, then that worker only has a special ability that you either get to play into the next season before everybody else, or you can move him, or
depending on the nature of that.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game, there's a male and a female special worker, and they're wearing overalls, or they're identifiable, and you can train them for an additional cost, one more than a regular worker, and them alone give you the corresponding special ability. You just choose. There's multiple. They'll be different every game, which is nice, so it doesn't get stale. But you can choose whether or not you want to play with that based on who you're playing with, which is neat. Yeah. So the turn order mechanism is great. What else haven't I talked about, guys? I think that
covers the most of it. Yeah, Andrew, why don't you get into your overall thoughts? I have a couple of positives and negatives, but I want to hear from you first, Andrew.
So I really liked the original when I first played the original, but once I elevated to the Essential, I didn't want to go back. And once I played Tuscany, I didn't want to go back to the other version. And it's available to play on Board Game Arena, so I played in the afternoon just to remember myself what the original was, and man, it's almost painful. The two things are like, there's just no
very restrictive. There's no meat to it.
Flow. But also, the important part of the map and the Tuscany ambition, as far as I'm concerned, is it gives counterbalance to the people who block you out of stuff, right? Like, you can go and take the green cards, and you get the extra bonus for green card, whatever, not, it's fine. But if that's blocked, then I can go to the map and get green cards that way. Or I can go and get orange cards, or whatever I need, I can get over there. Now, there's the cost of doing business by that, and that is that I'm not blocking, but I'm investing in that map aspect. And I think that's the counterbalance to the board that's necessary. Also, one of the things that's very restrictive about this game, as far as I'm concerned, is the green cards. Like, really and truly, it's a little weird that you can't pick the type of way you want to make. You have to hope you draw what you want. Now, I don't have a problem with the quality levels, right? I think that's totally fine. But if I were making this game again, I would have a white deck and a red deck, and you can take from whichever one you want. I would split that up. And I'm not saying it's a hard thing for you to house rule or something like that, but it is frustrating to I really need some red grapes. I've drawn nothing but white grapes, and you draw some more white grapes. I feel like I lost a turn trying to do that, and there's no way to mitigate that.
Or add a trading option. Hey,
right?
You want to trade this for this, right?
I'll give you 3 white cards for 1 red card. Yeah, I mean that'd be helpful to do. But that said, I think there's some really ingenious aspects to this, and I think the idea of having workers that are usable in one season or usable in the next season, but once time passes, you can't go backwards. Unless you're using those special characters, which I think also makes the game so much more fun, is to have these elements that break the game in tiny ways and have to be mitigated, but also have to be anticipated for, right? So you can't just
keep on your toes. Yeah,
use them all. And then the Grande worker, I think, is also one of those things.
Yeah, I didn't mention the Grande worker. Maybe you could talk about that, Andrew, the large worker.
The fact that you can never get blocked out of a space because you have one worker that shoves its way in, essentially. So no matter what you want to do, one of your workers can do that thing. You may not get bonuses for it. You may not get the special actions of being there first and different kinds of things like that, but you can always do it. So if you really need to be able to harvest this turn, you can go on that and use them in the harvesting space. Or if you really need to take some more grape cards, you can use them on that space to do that. I've also found that, like you, I don't feel like you need all 3 vineyards. So I think it's almost essential to sell one of them at some point, because you get a victory point if you're the first person to do it. That's number 1. Then you can use that money to train a worker. And then when you get the money back later in the game, you just go and buy it back and get another victory point for buying it. So I think that's definitely part of the strategy that needs to be, factored in or blocked. You need to make sure somebody else doesn't do that in front of you.
Yeah. And I agree with your critique that sometimes you can have bad luck drawing those green cards. You can just get stuck with one color grape. But the cool thing about this game is there's other ways you can squeeze out points. I've won games of Viticulture with not even filling one order, just by squeezing points out by buying and selling fields and just working those summer and winter visitor cards just to squeeze out points. There's multiple paths to win, so it doesn't seem stale. Like one game you might go this path, the next game you got to kind of adapt and go this path. And so I like that about the game. I do think, though, I agree with you that those green cards can be so frustrating if you get the wrong ones. But that's why they added a trading square too, right? I don't have the right card. I can trade $3 for 2 more cards, and eventually I'm going to grab a few cards. But
again, another part that's necessary, I think, to play the game properly. You need to have that trading post.
Yeah. So I think as the game's evolved, it certainly got a lot better. One thing we mentioned earlier briefly, this is kind of I think this is the original, if not one of the original Kickstarter games. And it's so cool. The iconography on all the cards, the images of the mama and the papa. At the beginning of the game, you get a mama and a papa card, or 2 of them. You can choose what resource you want to start with. All the images on those and all the images on the visitors are people who Kickstarted the game and backed it, which I find is so cool.
They're also the playtest.
And the playtesters too. Yeah, playtesters are backers. I didn't quite get in on the ground floor, but I got this game early on, and it just sings for me. My wife and I and friends get this on. We played a 6-player game of this not too long ago. 6 can be a little tedious and long.
Yeah.
And 4 of the 6 players had not played it before. And I told them, listen, it's going to feel slow at first, but midway through this game, it's going to click and the magic's going to happen. And one critique some people give is that it's a little too slow. Like for the first couple of years, you're like, I got 1 point, I got 0 point, I got -1 point. I'm not doing anything. And all of a sudden that engine starts to build and it just starts to explode. And it's just this race in the back half of the game to the end. The other critique I have of this game, if I was going to make a critique, is that currency really loses its value in the late stage. There's really no value for money. You've got all your structures built. You're just building the engine. And so really the spring season, you're almost just bypassing that near the end of the game.
And
that's a minor quibble.
That was one of the things I had written too. The arc of the importance of the lira is like super weird. And you would think that they would have built something in where you would be able to use it late game,
but again, you can buy a field back
points
you
or
can
something.
trade, right? So you've got these couple spaces that help mitigate
even
it.
Then, like I remember a few games where I just like drowning in money and like there's nothing I could use it for. If I did, it would be a waste even getting buying a field back for a point or whatever. There was just things that I could do that was worth way more
It's a
with my
tiebreaker.
actions.
It's a tiebreaker. Hang on to that money.
There you go.
Because it's really it's always a tight finish. Oftentimes it does come down to a tiebreaker. So
yeah. But I did find as you guys were mentioning, there's lots of ways to pivot and do something. Somebody takes your spot. I really needed to get a green card, or I found Lost Ruins of Arnak does this really well too, where it's like, I really need this one specific thing. And if you look at your board and you look at the spaces long enough, there's usually a way to squeeze it out and find a way to do it. Even if it's not the most efficient, a lot of times if you really, really need something, there's often a way to do it, or to find a way to get that thing. And when you do that, when you have a game like that, I find it makes you feel smart, and it kind of gets those juices flowing of like, okay, like I'm stuck here. I find a dead end here, but you know what? I could take the side street, and there's another way to do it. And man, that's very satisfying, right? So that was one of the things that I really liked about the game. I'm a little bit cooler on the game, I think, than you guys are, but I still really enjoyed it. It's one of these things that you and I, Jason, have had this type of conversation a few times. I feel like I appreciate this game more than I loved it. And like, as I'm playing the game, I found that it was very smooth. It's beautiful. There's like no edge cases with rules where you're like, oh, like, you know, it feels very intuitive. I didn't find that there were situations where I was like, oh, what happens in this situation? What happens in this scenario? I didn't find myself in the rule book a ton. I found that it was very smooth,
I
clean.
must have explained it quite well then.
Yeah. So, and I love the progression and the thematic progression of making the wine. You know, you harvest your fields, you crush your grapes, you plant the vines, you know, and there's this progression that feels very satisfying, especially when you already have your purple cards, like your contract cards, and you're building towards that, and you can do it in such a way that feels, again, you feel smart and you feel like you're progressing through this thing. It feels very thematic, and I thought that was really cool too. Yeah, it's like the warm and fuzzy, cozy blanket. This game is what I found. It's like, it's gorgeous. The color scheme of it just feels. It feels right. It feels warm. And, you know, those are all really positive things that I felt about this game. I really like the unique worker abilities that we mentioned, the Mama and the Papa. When you train those, I felt that was the thing that brought it from like, yeah, I kind of like this game, to like, okay, there's something there, you know. It was the introduction of that I was like, okay, there's just enough there for me that kind of put it into the zone where I'm like, okay, I very much appreciate this game. I really enjoyed the game, and there's a little bit more there. What I will say is that, like, I found this game to be for the most part, a very straightforward, very, I don't want to use the word easy, but just like, and it's not an entry level game. It's you know, that mid-weight Euro, or just above the entry level. But I came to this game, and this is probably the reason why I'm just a touch colder on this game than you guys. I came to this game having already played my Viticulture, if that makes sense, which was Raiders of the North Sea for me. And it was probably two different games that fit that slot, but it's Raiders of the North Sea and Everdell. Those are the two kind of like games that fit that slot.
Okay.
For maybe you guys, or definitely for you, Jason. For me, Raiders and Everdell kind of filled that spot for me. The games that I played that were worker placement a little bit earlier in my introduction, or in my you know, lifespan of my board gaming hobby. And they're both games where they're fairly thematic. You know, not super simple, but that's just that like entry level plus mid-weight Euro resource management worker placement with a twist board game. And you know, if I had played Viticulture before those and played it a ton the way that I played those a ton, Viticulture might be my Viticulture.
Right.
You know,
sure. Yeah. Sometimes it's when you discover a game, right?
For sure.
Is it your first? You never forget your first, right? So your first, like, I cut my teeth on like Agricola. That's probably my most played game ever. Like early Uwe Rosenberg, some of his early worker placements, like I just fell in love with that. And so for me, this is a natural progression out of games like that.
Yeah, so just playing Viticulture,
is a
I felt like, oh, this is good. This is good, but it didn't really do anything new or super interesting that I hadn't done in other games. And but it was like very solid. I have almost no critiques for this game. It's very, very good. It's just like it's almost like I talked to people who were born in the like early to mid 60s, and they talk about having discovered Star Wars as it was coming out when they were like 10, 12 years old. And like I came to Star Wars as an adult. Like I didn't, whatever. So I love Star Wars, but it's
now
not.
You got the lightsaber.
Yeah. I absolutely love Star Wars. It's like one of my favorite things of all time in film and that. But maybe if a person was born in today, maybe they have like Marvel as is their Star Wars. You know what I mean?
No,
so
Dune.
Or Dune, whatever, pick your poison. But that's kind of how I felt about Viticulture. And there was a few things that I thought was like set it apart a little bit. The unique workers, I think, was one of the main things. The very thematic progression of taking your wine from point A to point B to point C to point D and moving it through I thought that was really cool. And I really like the grande worker. I thought that was a really nice touch too, because I find that the worker placement player interaction seems very watered down in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years of board games coming out, and so many games now have like, you could just do you bump the other person or whatever. So I really like that there's just one grande worker, so you can always do whatever you want with it, wisely. But use it wisely. And I loved that, like, plotting that out and being like, I'm saving this grande worker, and I would put it aside and note it in my head. I'm not touching that grande worker until I get to, the
train
fall,
another worker usually.
fall, because I need whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah, I have lots of positive things to say about this game, very little negative to say about it. It just like that slot in my brain in the worker placement in the hobby is kind of already occupied, and it didn't do enough to like, kind of knock those games out for me personally.
Okay.
It's very fair. Yeah. Good stuff.
One other thing I want to talk about is the total number of cards in this game and the variation in those cards, especially with the visitors. And I think this is either where the game shines or where the game breaks down, depending on your perspective, right? Because I feel like you can combo some of these cards and you can just leap in front in the game. Or you can get cards that don't help you at all and therefore feel like they're holding you back. I feel like when I'm playing this game, getting that summer cottage is usually a good investment, because you need to see a number of cards in this game to find the ones that are going to help you.
Can you explain the cottage? That's one of the structures that I didn't mention.
Sure. So a summer cottage, just in between the seasons, gets you a draw of either the blue ones or the yellow ones, essentially, and you can choose. But I think that power of getting some of those visitors and having those visitors have game-breaking abilities can be huge.
It's one of my first builds, cottage, all the time. Yeah.
Things like getting the one card that allows you to build any grape without the structures is kind of a really cool one to get. Or the one that allows you to train a worker and lose a victory point, but not pay for it, is really powerful. And if you can get a couple of those, then you can, jump ahead in this game pretty quickly. And so either that breaks the game for you, or it makes the game more fun because every game is different based on how you react to those cards.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I think sometimes you can luck out getting an early power card, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee you victory.
No.
It might get you a leg up, but then there are ways for other players to accumulate cards to catch up. So for me, it doesn't break the game, but with any card drafting game, there's going to be a luck element involved, right?
Yeah, you put cards in a game, that's gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
there's no way around it. That was one of my only other kind of like nitpicks with the game was the orange cards. Remind me, is there a way to get orange cards on the board, or can you play without them?
The orange cards are available through
build structure.
they're through the structure, but also you can take them when you take any of the cards, either in the map area in the Tuscany map, or you can get it in the trading area. If you want to trade cards for cards, you can get orange cards that way.
But what I mean is
one row in the wake up column is a bonus of getting orange cards.
If you play without orange cards, is that a thing you can do or not?
Sure, you can.
Yeah,
you can play just with the special workers and not the orange cards if you want.
Right. Okay,
just because that's what Tuscany gives you, right? Basically, it gives you the special workers, it gives you the orange cards, and you can customize it. You can play with all the expansion pieces or just one or none.
Yeah, I just vaguely remember thinking I probably wouldn't play with the orange cards again. Mind you, I've only played this game 3 times, I think now, 3 or 4 times. So I'm not as experienced as you guys are with the game, but I found that the orange cards were fairly underwhelming. I found a lot of times they were like useless or pointless. And I think in the 4 games that I played, I think only 1 was actually ever built amongst all the players. So that's just a weird thing that maybe was just situational, and the way that things landed, it didn't make sense in those games specifically. But that's just a note that I wrote here from the last time I played, which was a few months ago now, that I found the orange cards underwhelming. And I remember thinking, like, maybe I just wouldn't play with them. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if you guys have a rebuttal to that.
Yeah, I would never play without the orange, because for me, the orange are the high risk, high reward. Like they are a way to get spaces. Like really, there are structures on there where you can put a worker on there and do a specific thing that nobody else can do. It's like expanding the board, but just for you. Yes, it is high risk, high reward. You have to get a bunch of cards before you find the one that matters. But like there are ones that, like, you know, you can age your grapes 1 extra space when you go there, all of them. So this season, I'm going to put my worker there. I'll age all my grapes 1, and the season ends, and I age my grapes again. Like, you're moving stuff up much, much quicker, and it's centrally to you. Now, those spaces are also expensive. So, you know, you are going to have to pay for it. And I think one of the reasons those ones exist in the game is to keep that money engine something you want to buy into. And it helps break and finish the end of that game. When you are feeling a little stagnant, you feel like you're not doing much, you have some extra money, go get an orange card and see if it can finish the game for you.
I think if you played a few more gameplays, you would have seen maybe more orange cards on the board.
I wonder if my gameplays, we just didn't value card drawing enough. And as you said, maybe we didn't get the cottage. Or I certainly don't remember drawing a whole bunch of cards. I
don't focus on orange too much unless I'm stuck and I need to pivot. I'll just get the cottage down early and try and just pump those yellow blue cards as much as possible, usually. I should say, too, one thing we didn't mention is it's not only red and white grapes you're making, but some of these order cards you're making blush line, right? You're making a rosé, right? Or you're making like a sparkling. And those can only be stored in your medium and large cellar. So, and those are where you get your those are the real satisfying ones. But it costs a lot more to make them. When you want to make a rose wine, it's going to cost you a 1 white token and 1 red token that add up to the value of the rosé total on the order card. And to make sparkling, I believe it's 2 red and 1 white. And so you've got to have a lot of grape tokens down in your crush pad to be able to make those. But they're worth a lot. And when you fill an order, not only do you get the point value, but there's a residual income track as well we didn't talk about, like a little rondelle. And that means that once you fill an order, you bump yourself up on that to a maximum of, I think, 5. Yep. And that will give you that many lira at the end of each year. So that's a way to keep generating some income coming in, which you'll need definitely in the mid-game to build some of those more expensive structures. So, yeah. So I think we've covered most of the bases on this game. Final thoughts and scores, guys, unless there's anything else that we want to contribute?
Yeah, usually we just, talk about who the game is for. I would say it's like that. I played this with a few friends from work, and one of which is not a hardcore board gamer. He does really like board games. I play board games with him quite a bit, but he really likes that spot of like just above entry level, or just below the, like, when you get to the medium heavy stuff. And he really likes a game that feels thematic in the way that you can look at the board and at your cards and at the situation and intuitively figure out what you need to do next, because
Feel free to
there
give
is
my
a
phone number
because
anytime
there
he
is
wants to
a
play,
progression.
yeah.
Like I remember asking him about this game, and he specifically mentioned like the reason I like this game is what I just mentioned. So he felt that it was very intuitive, and that progression of like, oh well, I need to do this next because I just did A, now clearly I have to do B, and he found that very satisfying. So I think if you have friends or you like that medium light game that still has a little bit of crunch for the hardcore board gamer, still has some planning and strategy, especially when you introduce that like special ability worker and the grande worker and all that stuff. There's definitely enough there for the board gamer, for the more hardcore board gamer, but you could definitely bring this to somebody or to a family game night as long as they've played some entry level stuff. Maybe they're familiar with worker placement and they're familiar with resource management. You could definitely get them into playing this. So the like the footprint of like who this is for is fairly big, and I really appreciate that about this game.
It's well said. Agreed. Totally.
Yeah, and there's just enough, like for me, the worker placement is usually enough player interaction where like I can see that I definitely need to do this thing, so I need to get on that spot before somebody else, and I'm looking at other people's boards and their situation. Okay, they can't afford to go there, so I don't need to rush there. I can take my time. So as long as I'm involved and I care about what other people are doing, and there's definitely enough of that here. So if you're the type of player that like me needs a bare minimum of player interaction where I care about what others are doing, Viticulture definitely meets that as well. Anything else to add, fellas?
No,
I covered it pretty damn thoroughly.
Yeah, no, that was well said.
I'll start with me just because I'll probably be the lowest. I'm at a 7.5. I think I would play this game anytime. If somebody brought it to game night, I would be like, sure. It's not a game that I would like bring and be like, let's play this. But I'm happy to play it anytime. I thought it was really solid, and it's so smooth. I think that's the word that I keep coming back to. It's intuitive, it's smooth, it's clean, and I really appreciated this game, and I can tell I really, like I said, I appreciate it more than I love it, and I definitely understand why it's so high on the rankings and why so many people love it.
It's like Nosferatu for me. I appreciate it. I understand why it's your favorite movie of the year.
Fair enough.
Nice. Andrew, where are you at on this one?
For me, this is a really solid 8. I think everything that Matt said is very true. I feel like if they have gotten past gateway games, then this is not too much of a leap. And if you need to ease them up into the Tuscany, that's fine. But once you've played the Tuscany, you don't ever need to go back. I don't think that the extra special workers add that much. I don't think the orange structures add that much. You can pick and choose the avenues you want to. It just adds more avenues to pursue. And so that's kind of up to you. And I think it gives it more pivot points. So it's less painful when you're blocked out of things, which is part of the game and should be. But you should also have escape routes and ability to change and adjust. And so I think that the full version of this game is the better version of the game. Also, I will say this small point. I actually like it at odd player counts. So I like it at the 3 players more than the 2 players. I like it at the 5 players than the 4 players. Because I like having those extra spaces open. And I think that is where it more shines than the tighter space. Now, the map adds to that, and that's great. But I like there to be a little less competition for spaces and more a fight for efficiency engine and fight for wake-up position. I think that's a better way to play this. And I actually really like those spaces that had a little bonus, like the 2 green cards versus the 1 green card and the extra point for selling first and stuff like that. And I think that's where the game shines as well, is giving an incentive to go here over there. And that makes it more of an efficiency engine game. But this is a solid 8 for me. I will always play if somebody wants to. And of course, I love playing wine games. So if you've got this, Vinos, or My Game Wine Cellar, this is the medium weight one. Vinos is the heavyweight one, and mine is the lightweight one. So there you go.
Yeah, you got 3 weight options of great wine games. Yes. This is the one for me, guys. This is
your baby.
I mean, I don't buy wine crate boxes for many of my games with all the versions stuffed into one box, but this is it. Once this game fully evolved, it goes down smooth like a fine wine, and ding, ding, ding. This is 10 for me. When all the components are in, I have not taught this game to anyone who walked away saying, "Well, I'll never play that again." Even just the last 6-player game, I was a little hesitant. We're playing late at night, 6 players, 4 of them new. Like, that was great. I can't wait to play it again. That just warmed my heart. Theme matters to me very much. It's got to be more than theme. There's got to be some substance to the game, but this has the thematic flow, the element there. It's so immersive, but it's at this stage of my life, I don't want to play Axis and Allies for 8 hours.
Agreed.
I don't have time. I want to get Wine Cellar to the table, and then I want to follow it up with Viticulture and just have a whole wine theme. Maybe throw in some fromage. We'll have a wine and cheese night, right?
Or
That's my favorite game from last year. Yeah, exactly. So this is the one for me. This is my favorite worker placement game. This is my Raiders of the North Sea, I guess, and this will always hold a special place high up on my shelf, literally on top of my shelf, because it doesn't really fit in the shelf. And that's such a big crate. But I haul this around to most of my game nights, and it's always there if anybody wants to play it. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Very cool. Yeah, this was, you've given me a hard time for a few times for having picked certain things. Krampus is the one that keeps coming up. This was definitely your choice, and I'm glad for it. I definitely enjoyed Viticulture, and so I guess,
especially when we had a guest who's designed a wine themed game, this is perfect.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And who brings wine to the podcast too, right?
Definitely picked the right guy. All right, so let's move into our movie of the episode. The movie that we chose to pair. I guess that's the right word to use too,
it's
right?
The word.
I'm not a wine guy, but I know that. Is Bottle Shock. So it's a 2008 movie directed by Randall Miller. It stars Alan Rickman, Chris Pine, Bill Pullman, Rachel Taylor, and Dennis Farina. Always love seeing Dennis Farina and stuff. That guy's hilarious. The synopsis goes that it is based on a true story of love, victory, and fermentation. Paris-based wine expert Stephen Spurrier heads to California in search of cheap wine that can be used for a blind taste test in the French capital. Stumbling upon the Napa Valley, the stuck-up Englishman is shocked to discover a winery turning out top-notch Chardonnay. Determined to make a name for himself, he sets about getting the booze back to Paris. Where do we want to start with this?
Yeah, so I suggested this one as I feel like this is actually a cool historic moment that they've put into film, right? Now, whether they successfully executed this moment or not is another issue entirely, but there was a time in our history where Napa was just farmers. It wasn't actually known for wine, and even though they were making wine, they were making it regionally. It wasn't in grocery stores across the country, let alone the world, right? And they were turning out good product because the land itself and the temperature and the climate and all these things were kind of optimal for this. And so there were a number of people buying wineries up to try to get ahead of the trend, but it hadn't caught on yet. And so there was this judgment of Paris, which was the French are the only ones doing it world class. Everybody else is a bunch of hicks, right? And so after some rumors started happening that people were saying, hey, the stuff coming out is getting better and better and better and better. And, this guy from Paris decided to go and find out for himself how good or bad it was. And yeah, he was totally shocked. And then once he was here, he was like, well, I got to advocate on behalf of these guys. These guys are going to take me up there because I've got a wine shop in Paris. And if I can get these wines here to sell at my place, then it'll do much better. And so the blind tasting face-off happened. And once it happened and Napa won, that was it. It changed entire world of wine. I don't say it that lightly. Like, it changed the world of wine.
And this is a recent thing, right? This happened in what, the 90s?
70s.
Oh, it's set in the 70s?
It's set in the 70s.
Weird. I thought it was set.
But once that happened, there became two terms. There was the old world and the new world, right? It was the places that have been making wine for multiple generations and decades and hundreds of years. And there are the places that started making wine relatively recently. And so that would include things like Argentina and Chile and, South America as a whole versus some of these old things. And so it became these two different ways of doing things. And whereas the people in the new age were doing more experimental stuff and more trying new things out and hybrid grapes and making wine blends, the old world had done the tradition and never changed. Like if you go and taste a white Burgundy, it's always Chardonnay. It's never anything else. They don't mix, they don't blend. That's all they do. And they only grow one type of grape in that entire region, which means that you're cultivating a very specific taste profile, but you are also not experimenting and getting any better. So unless yours is world class, you are stagnant. And so this was a way of the has-nots getting in with the haves and showing them up a little bit, which of course is a little bit the story of America, right? A little bit of the story of the underdog, a little bit the story of the scrappy guy who just wants to be good at what he does or she does and really works hard to do it. Now, I think that they took some liberties in some weird ways, but the one thing they didn't take a liberty is having Alan Rickman. I think he kind of carries this film in some
Elevates
ways.
it for sure.
He is absolutely the perspective the movie is built around, and I don't think there's a bad Alan Rickman film. There's bad films, but not bad roles by Alan Rickman. And I'm going to stop talking because I'm rambling a little bit here and let you guys talk a bit more, but this was important for me to showcase because one of the things I try to do with my games and my wine knowledge and stuff like that is to spread that information. And there's such an interesting world that is so kind of unknown and sometimes a little bit snobbish. It's hard to get into, but once you get into it, man, is it interesting.
Andrew, you should design a wine game, man. You know your stuff. Oh, I love it. I love it.
Very cool. No, go for it, Andrew. I want to hear more because I'm not a wine guy. I know nothing about wine. Like what I learned from this movie is the extent of my wine knowledge. So by all means, I want you guys to go off here and share your knowledge.
My wife's the wine lover in the family. We have a cousin who's a sommelier. So I've learned a lot over the years and I have an acquired taste for it. But just cinematically, I think a lot of what you said about wolves applies here. This would be a much lesser movie without Alan Rickman.
Yes.
And my man Farina and some of the other, Bill Pullman's solid too. Chris Pine, yeah, he's never been one of my favorites. Yeah, take him or leave him, but I think you're so right. This movie revolves around Alan Rickman, and man, rest in peace, Alan Rickman. We miss you.
Right, we
totally agree. There's never been a bad performance by this guy, and his performance alone elevates the film for me. Every time he's on screen, this movie just sings. And when he's not, I'm like, when's Alan coming back on screen?
Yeah, I mean, he was great. I found a lot of the other characters were even his character was one note. All the characters were pretty much one note. They were all kind of caricatures. And this wasn't the type of movie in terms of the plot and the way it was shot. It didn't feel like a movie that needed or wanted caricatures and one note characters. The two things for me that saved this film is one was Alan Rickman and the other one was just the story of this Californian wine and it's coming to light in the world. So those are the two things that just kind of kept me somewhat interested in the film and kept me going. And it's interesting because I love pretty much all the sum of this movie's parts. Like I'm a huge Bill Pullman fan. Anytime I see him on screen, I'm happy, and it's probably because I grew up watching Independence Day. I just love the guy. Between Independence Day and Spaceballs, I gotta love Bill Pullman.
Classic.
And then Dennis Farina, the guy, I just can't. Every time I see him on screen, I just laugh. No matter what he's doing, I think it's hilarious. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I just have a great time watching that guy. Something about that
it's
face,
a different role for him here, right? Yeah. Yeah, he's great. He's in my favorite 80s film, Manhunter. You ever seen Manhunter?
I have, yeah. The original Hannibal Lecter movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that film.
Yeah, I don't remember him specifically in it, but I do remember the movie, yeah.
Yeah, he's basically the head detective, the boss of the protagonist of the film.
Okay.
And so he plays a pivotal role. Anyway, that's another movie for another day. Love that movie. Watch Manhunter if you haven't seen it. But whenever I go watching a movie like this, I'm like, I wonder what other people thought about this. my guy, the Alan Rickman of movie reviewers,
There you
rest
go.
in peace also, Roger Ebert. He's the first guy I go to. And he gave this a solid 3.5 out of 4. And he says this, he says, Bottle Shock is more than the story. It is also about people who love their work, care about it with passion, and talk about it with knowledge. Did you know that a thirsty, struggling vine produces the best wines?
It's true.
You can't just sit there sipping water. It has to struggle, just like Chateau Montelena. And I latched onto that in his review. That was well said. And there's something about that. Just this, you mentioned it. It's just the scrappy Americans trying to make a name for themselves. There, just slugging it out. And in comes the French man and realizing, wow, what is going on here? Do you guys have a favorite scene in this movie? Maybe we should talk about that. This is not a great movie. I think it's a solid movie, but it's got some really awesome moments in it. Do you guys have a favorite moment or scene?
I'd say one of my favorite moments comes actually relatively early on when Alan Rickman considers himself to be a shepherd. And Des Farina goes, well, in order to be a shepherd, don't you need sheep?
Yeah.
And he's like, well,
awesome.
Yeah, but, I'm here just to help people appreciate and stuff like that. He's like, but if I am a business, would you consider yourself a customer? And he's like, no, I consider myself an enthusiastic advocate.
Yeah.
And he pours another glass of wine for free from him because it's not
just to milk it. Yeah.
There are so many great moments in this movie. Like, I feel like this would be one of those TikTok video movies, like where the scene where he's going to a wine tasting and he gets kind of some gruff at the door and they finally do seat him, but they seat him next to the door and the waiters coming out bang the door against his table. And he's just like trying to endure like this constant bombardment in a civilized cello-based tone of musical violins and elegance, and he's just being battered from the side, and just like that feels like this movie, and it sets the tones in some ways. But at the same time, the movie as a whole is a little slow. It's a little plodding. It doesn't move and shift fast enough from point to point, and it shoehorns in a kind of love story-ish, but really feels very pasted on in order to make sure you have a pretty woman jammed into the storyline. Whereas I would much rather the Alicia Dooku character, who runs the bar and does a little side hustle and ends up saving the day. That's more of the more interesting aspect of this movie that really should be focused on.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite scenes is in the bar when Gustavo, he's got a knack for the blind tasting, and then she pulls out 3 secret bottles and the bets gets placed and he's able to taste and identify the year, the type. And I love that scene too. And I wanted more from Elisa Dushku as well. She was a fascinating character. There's some cliches that are just pasted on that don't feel really important.
You could erase Chris Pine and Gustavo and the love interest from this movie. Like, what are they even doing in there other than like so they can put some pretty faces in the trailer and sell the movie
because it's based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah, but like
and we need Chris Pine with some bad long hair.
Oh my god,
Napa, California.
Yeah, I didn't buy that character. It just felt so one note and so cliche. And then they have this like little love triangle thing where she like gets together with Gustavo for like a second, like literally. And then we don't, there's nothing else that comes of that. And then she just ends up with Chris Pine at the end. It was weird. Like, why did that even have to exist? It didn't have to be in there at all. You could literally erase 30-40 minutes from this movie and it would be better for it, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's some good stuff though, some good moments. You asked me what my favorite scene was. The end was very satisfying. The whole like taste testing thing where you got to like stick it to the snotty French snobs. That felt really satisfying. The whole plot with the wine browning and finding out if you actually make the perfect wine with the perfect amount of oxygen or whatever, that it would brown first and then, it would take a day or 2 days or whatever amount of days to clear up. All of that I found was very interesting and could have been set up in almost like a more like edge of your seat
agreed
thing. But instead it's like this, I don't know. It didn't quite get there for me, but there was some moments there, like, and you're absolutely right. The bartender, I think, should have been a more prominent character, and we could have pushed the like love triangle people aside a little bit, and I think it would have been a better movie. So, like, I think the script is probably where this movie kind of falls.
That's what holds it
flat
back
a bit.
Yeah. The script needed to ferment a little longer, I think.
It's still brown.
Yeah. But the cast takes a subpart script and squeezes whatever they can out of it, right?
Mhm.
So it's, yeah.
Also, this movie to me felt a little dated in certain ways, like not just by today's standards, but like actually in 2008, it would have felt dated. Like it would have felt more like an early 2000s film, almost a decade earlier than that, because of the way the script and some of the character dialogue is not very crafted. And like different things like that, I think also are holding it back.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the Bechdel test either. The only reason I'm not even sure of her name, but the love interest is in there is because she's beautiful and they want to put a pretty face on screen. She didn't need to be there, and they didn't need to shoehorn in this character. The film, the story, it doesn't need it at all. The marketing needed it, which is unfortunate if they want to sell this movie.
I think you could have added the pretty face, and you could have made this about the craftsmanship, right? She could have been the character that comes in, does the little internship thing, comes up with some new ideas or something like that, or some new suggestions, or finds some way to do some innovation aspect and ends up adding to the puzzle. And then you can do the will they or won't they sleep with each other kind of thing, and it would have pulled off the same way. But the film
you could have
been
had her
focused on craftsmanship rather than triangle.
You could have been, you could have had her
writing.
as the audience surrogate as well, right? Like,
yes.
Especially me coming into this having zero knowledge of wine, you have her coming in interested and wanting to learn, and then she can ask the questions, and she could be the one that'd be like, "Hey, I read in my book about this browning or whatever," right? Like, you could have had her play a more prominent role in the actual plot of the film rather than just being this side quest love interest.
Agreed.
So that felt a little bit shoehorned in, but I thought it was beautiful. It looked really good. Obviously the acting was great. Other than maybe the Chris Pine thing, and I don't think he's bad. I just don't think the character's very good or interesting. Just felt like a lot of like I said, caricatures. Even Alan Rickman is a one note, character. He's grumpy, snobby, English wine guy.
Yeah, but him chewing the scenery is just worth watching. Period.
Exactly.
I don't care.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Despite him being one note caricature, I think he does, as we said, elevate the film to watchable. In my opinion.
Sure. I wonder if Chris Pine, I wonder if the actual Bo Barrett, who he plays in the film, wanted to make sure that he was part of the story. I mean, they've obviously taken some liberties with the true story here, but it is loosely based on truth. And I did some digging, fact and fiction, and discovered that Bo, he's the CEO to this day, and he's been involved in every vintage at the winery since 1972. So he probably had a bit of a say in who's portraying me and how much screen time am my character getting here. So you just wonder what's going on behind the scenes as they're negotiating what this movie might look like. So,
well, every movie is a work of fiction on some level. It's just a matter of how much.
Of course.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot, in this last year, Jason, about Denis Villeneuve and how he goes and looks at this massive book of Dune and does an excellent, like I would say almost perfect job of picking and choosing the important stuff and how to present it and what's important and what to put in the forefront and what to just leave in the background. And the producers, directors, and writers of this film looked at the source material, which is, the real life story of this vineyard and the taste test and all that stuff, and probably just didn't quite pick and choose the right stuff. And maybe the family and this actual real life person had too much influence and say as to what was on the page Yeah, I guess we'll never know, but it definitely didn't feel like it was properly set up in terms of plotting and script. All that to say, like, I still enjoyed the movie, you know, and again, it was for two reasons. You know, Alan Rickman, we've talked about lots, and the other thing was I did find the story of this vineyard and how the California Napa Valley, you know, wine industry came to light on the world stage. I found that very interesting, fascinating, and the ending I found, like, you know, 3/4 way through the movie, I was probably lukewarm on it. And then that ending was so satisfying and so well staged. And it was beautiful in that, like, in the area where they shot it, I thought it was gorgeous. It was well shot and set up. And I just thought it was very satisfying by the end. I was like, hell yeah. Napa Valley.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but a little bit of fiction in this film that I dug up. Here's a tidbit. Though he ended up owning the historic Chateau Montelena winery, Jim Barrett did not craft the wine that went on to win big in France. It was by the name of Mike Grgic, a Croatian-American winemaker in Napa Valley, who was actually the winemaker of the 1973 Chardonnay that won the Paris tasting in 1976, known as the Judgment of Paris. Originally, he was written in the script, but he was cut from the movie because he just didn't want to be part of the film. Maybe he saw the screenplay and said, nah, this is a crappy script. I don't want to be in it. So, yeah. So
I was going to say he was going to be given all the credit.
Yeah.
Didn't want it.
No, didn't want it. So
interesting.
He's rich. He's good. I'm sure he's doing fine.
He is.
This movie might have decreased his street cred a bit. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting film. There's good pieces to it. It doesn't quite coalesce, but there's enough interesting moments and performances that makes it watchable. And I'd rewatch this.
Would you?
Oh, yeah. Hey, maybe I had one glass of wine too many one night because I actually ordered the board game. There's actually a board game that's big. I was on Kickstarter. I'm like, oh, Bottle Shock. Sure, buy.
I remember you sent me that link when we were talking about doing this episode, and I looked at the Kickstarter for like 8 seconds. So like, this game looks awful. And I will say,
Wine Cellar, Viticulture, Vinos, Bottle Shock. We'll see where that slots in. Yeah.
We'll see.
More of a party game, so it is a different slot. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
No, I was thinking of our community cafe. I'm like, this might be a good addition for our cafe. We'll see.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Yeah.
Scores?
Go for it, Jason. What did you think?
So I'm kind of probably right, based on what I'm hearing you guys, maybe right down the middle, like 3.5 out of 5. I think there's enough raw materials here, enough parts and performances that make it kind of hold together. But for all the reasons we've spoken of, it doesn't quite hit that 4-star or higher, which is very good to great for me. But yeah, so I'm right down the middle, 3.5, mostly because my man Alan Rickman and Dennis Frieden are in it.
Yeah, I have it as a 3. I liked it fine. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. I'll probably never revisit it. The content is not really my jam either. You know, I thought it was interesting, and I was like, you know, that's kind of how I felt about the information, and I found the story of the rise of the Napa Valley. I was like, that's interesting. You know, and that's kind of
more Vikings for you, right? More Viking lore.
That's kind of how I felt about the movie. That was interesting, you know, and so I have it as a 3. I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it if I laid out what it was about and who was in it, and the person was like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, I'd be like, watch it. Otherwise, you know, if you don't have an interest in something that's already there, if you don't already really want to watch an Alan Rickman movie, or you don't have a interest in wine or that region of the world, maybe, otherwise I would say skip it. But you know, I thought it was solid. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars.
What about you, wine guy?
So
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
For me, this is a 4 because of the story. Like it's watching a story that I know come to life on the screen. And the same way that if you read a really good book, you'll watch a crappy movie just to watch that book that you love come to life, even if it's imperfect, is a fun time, right? And knowing Matt the way I know him now, I know how to fix this movie for him. We need to have some ghosts in the vineyard that every year kill one of the workers, and the blood seeps into the wine to make it better, and therefore becomes a borderline horror film mystery about how they got to solve that the vineyard was actually built on top of a graveyard, and so that's how the whole thing comes about.
I like
that
it.
way, right?
Now there's blood in the wine.
Yes.
So the wine can also be sold to vampires. You can introduce vampires in there
now
too.
You got True Blood buying in, right? You get that.
There you go.
All right, so can I derail this slightly, just real quickly here?
Please.
So one of the things we did on my podcast, The Real Poor, is when we watched a movie and we didn't love it, we asked each other, how would you recast the remake? Like if they were remaking this right now, coming out next year with today's actors and actresses, who do you put in each of the roles to make this film a hit?
You guys listen to Rewatchables podcast because they do this all the time. Recasting.
Yeah, the recasting couch.
Yeah, recasting couch. This is great. Yeah, this is good. We haven't done this yet, but we should do this periodically. So, Matt, any thoughts on this? I'm trying to think. Who would Alan Rickman be?
Yeah, the Alan Rickman character. We need like a slightly older curmudgeon. It would have to be British though, right? I was going to say Harrison Ford. But Harrison Ford
I know. He just was in a horror movie this year. Hugh Grant.
Oh, yes.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Could.
Yeah. I'm down with that.
That's my guy.
Hugh Grant
I'm going to
would
be
be
a little
good
more
one.
unconventional. I think I'd go with the George Clooney, right? He's already got his Italian villa. He can try on a little bit of his accent. He doesn't have to be French. It could be an Italian accent or whatever as far as that goes.
Sure, yeah.
And I feel like he's got that comedic timing and touch that he might be able to pull this off.
Fair enough. I think, you know what? Harrison Ford plays the Dennis Farina.
Dennis Farina. I was thinking he'd be. Okay. I was thinking him for the Bill Pullman role.
Yeah, that could work too. They've both played presidents. Both have that presidential.
I think I'd like to see.
Oh, you know who else would be good for Alan Rickman? I just watched Queer. Daniel Craig.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I love Daniel Craig. Yeah. That guy rocks. Yeah, and we've seen him do accents. If you've watched the Knives Out stuff, we know the guy can nail an accent.
Yeah, he would be good.
Mind you, he is British. He doesn't need to.
Sure.
I think I'd like to see Ryan Reynolds be Chris Pine, right? Like, I think he would be the charming level of slacker, not the doofus level of slacker. Like, he would just be making excuses all the time and snide commenting things, and I would enjoy the comedy of that in that role.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, and you inject a little bit of Canadian touch to the film as well. So I like it. Well, that was fun.
What Chalamet?
Chalamet? Yeah, Chalamet.
Two A-list?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't mind.
Maybe Gustavo.
Yeah, Gustavo. Yeah, if I were to remake this movie, I would just cut a couple of characters right out of it, or at least.
I was thinking Tom Holland as Chris Pine's character. That
would definitely work, no question.
Yeah,
he would have that youth, but I think he also has that little bit of stumbly that like is charming for a very, very young. But at some point in this movie, Chris Pine needs to like own it, and I'm not sure that I would trust Tom Holland to do that level.
And the intern is definitely Florence Pugh.
Sure.
Works with Chalamet too, because they work together quite a bit. But you know what? We've talked about Dune quite a bit this year, and when there's been a lot of talk about how Timothée Chalamet going into Dune had to play a young, naive teenager, but then also be a fully believable like a leader of an army and a messiah and like this like
perfect casting,
presence. And I'm not sure I would have believed prior to seeing this that Timothée Chalamet could pull it off. And there's a little bit of a similar arc in Bottle Shock, to a lesser extent, of course, but like kind of a loser, doesn't care, whatever, and actually becomes the CEO, the owner. He owns it, and he like takes himself more seriously and kind of steps into that role. So Timothée Chalamet maybe would have been a nice choice there.
So Final question for recasting.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the young girls from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is working the bar?
It's a very narrow section right there, right?
Margaret Qualley? Is it Qualley or Qualley?
Qualley.
Margaret Qualley, maybe?
Qualley working, yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Cool with that. Nice.
I also like the girls, the what's her face from Girls? What's her name?
I'm not familiar.
Lena
I'm
Dunham.
not sure.
Lena Dunham.
Oh, Lena Dunham.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she has this like attitude about her that I like. She's got a great kind of personality that I think is interesting. Anyways, she might have been good to be the bar owner.
We're down the rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
Who did we say Dennis Farina was? Harrison Ford?
Yeah, we'll go for it.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
I like it.
He's an enthusiastic advocate.
I was thinking, what about De Niro?
Maybe too. Yeah.
He'd bring too much gravitas. He'd pull it in too much.
Too much.
He can't be the sidekick.
All right. Well, I think that will wrap it up. Anybody have any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yeah, Bottle Shocks. It's not perfect, but it's still better than Krampus. So
I think as generally as a movie, it is better than Krampus, but I enjoyed.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely is. I enjoyed Krampus more because it's just like silly, schlocky fun. Did you see Krampus, Andrew? No. Do you like campy horror movies?
No.
Yeah, skip it. All right. I think like Krampus must be the most mentioned movie on the podcast at this point. Maybe
not helping our ratings.
Maybe tied with Dune. All right, let's wrap things up. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us on the second time on the podcast. So, you're in the 2-timer club, and maybe we'll get you into the 3-timer club sooner than later.
Wine cellar. Can't wait.
Yeah,
you already know that I'm a movie geek and a board game geek, so I fit right in. If you ever need a drop in, you go ahead and let me know.
100%. We will for sure. So guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, please take a few minutes to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. You can follow us on Instagram at Dice Camera Action Pod. And if you have any feedback, comments, or would like to suggest a game movie pairing for future episodes, please email us at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.